Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to this General Licensing Subcommittee. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
First of all, then, can I ask for nominations for chair?
I nominate Councillor Khan.
Councillor Craig?
I second that.
Lovely. Right, we'll appoint Councillor Khan as chair and I'll hand over to him to take over the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going through the agenda now. So any apologies? No, we don't have no apologies, do we?
No. Councillor Khan?
Oh, sorry. So we need to welcome everybody, don't I? Can you hear me, Jackie? Jackie, you're mute. Hello?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Just wanted to point out that we haven't made introductions, so we're not aware.
Yeah. I just forgot about that. I'm just going to start that now. Yeah. So I'll start for myself. I'm Councillor Jahangir Khan, and then pass on to my other colleagues.
Hello, I'm Councillor Paul Hazelgrave.
Hello, I'm Councillor Adrian Pegg.
I'm Lucy Keeler. I'm from Legal Services and I'm here to assist the councillors today.
I'm Jackie Waring. I'm Appeals Officer. Could I ask the police first to make themselves known? Thank you.
It's Sarah Baines here. I'm acting as muter today. I'm the Appeals Business Manager. Just to confirm that PC Gareth Fowler did leave the call briefly, but he's now back on the call. Would you like to introduce yourself, PC Fowler?
Just looks like currently on mute.
I've unmuted the microphone, Lucy.
Thank you.
Could we ask for the licensing officers to make themselves known while we're waiting for BC Fowler?
Yeah.
Angela Rawson, Licensing Manager.
Good afternoon. I'm Anne Walker. I'm representing the licensing
Can't hear you, Anne.
I think we've got some technical issues just with Mrs. Walker. I think there may be some network issues. I think you've frozen Mrs. Walker on our screen currently.
Hello.
Hello, Anne. Can you?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, thank you.
If you
I'm Anne Walker. I'm representing the licensing authority on this case.
And it's still not clear, you know, I think your computer or your technology is not very clear, so I think we can't really hear you properly.
do you want to try turning your camera off, Mrs. Walker, to see whether or not that improves the signal?
Right. Okay. Is that any better?
Yes.
Yes.
No?
Yep, that
Oh,
seems
it is
to be
better. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Okay. Yes, I'm Anne Walker. I am representing the licensing authority in this particular case. Thank you.
Yep. And finally, I think, have we got the applicant here?
The applicant isn't here at the moment, Chair. I do have someone else waiting in the lobby, but I'm unsure as to whether they were actually invited or whether this invitation has been forwarded to them. Darian Fern.
He wasn't actually invited. I don't know. I only sent the invite to Gareth Fowler of the police. I don't know who.
It's indicating that this person is a neighbourhood licensing officer. Are you happy for me to admit them, Chair?
If that's okay, yes. Lucy, if that's all right.
Yeah, I suppose if Officer Fowler's able to speak to us, he may be able to assist us a bit further just before we admit them. As I say, he'd put in the representation, so it may be that he wanted that officer to give evidence during the hearing. Officer Fowler, are you able to communicate with us? No, still looks like we've got issues there.
So
I wonder perhaps actually, shall I put a message in the message thing, and then hopefully Officer Fowler might be able to respond to that if he can hear us?
Yeah, that's fine.
That help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Officer Fowler's mic is unmuted, but I think they may be offline. I think he may be offline.
Oh, okay. Oh, because sometimes if you've been invited to a meeting, you'd show up, wouldn't you? But not even if you weren't attending, if you've been on the invite.
Yeah.
So it may be worth then admitting that other officer at this time, just to see if we can find out if his mic is working, I guess, to see if there's an issue as to why it's him, not Officer Fowler.
Okay, I will admit them. They're now admitted to the meeting.
Is that Officer Fern? Has Darian Fern entered the subcommittee hearing?
Lucy, when I hover over Darian Fern or Gareth Fowler, their mics are unmuted, but it appears as if they're coming in and out of the meeting.
Right, okay. I'm not sure what your view is on this, Chair, or Jackie. Do you want us to see if we can just make some phone calls to find out what's going on? Because I'm sure the applicant would ordinarily be here, wouldn't he? I'm not sure what the view of the rest of you are.
Sorry, it's Sarah Baines again, Lucy.
Yep.
Someone has just come into the lobby as a guest, and now they've gone again. So clearly we are having, some considerable technical difficulties.
Yeah, shall we call an adjournment and see if we can
I'd second the idea of an adjournment until we've sorted this out, particularly if we're live.
Yeah, so if we can ring them or find a way to get them on live, so yeah.
Okay,
so
sorry.
10 minutes?
I was going to say, we agree a time, then we know when to log back on.
So,
what would be best for you, Jackie? What do you think is appropriate?
Shall we say 1:30?
Yeah, then at least we can make the phone calls. I think that's sensible.
All right, then we'll reconvene.
Agreed.
1:30.
Yeah, that's fine.
Same link. Same link. We
link.
don't need to. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, Councillor Khan, I'll leave you to chair the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I am Councillor Khan, and can the rest of introduce yourselves, please? Where are we going to start from?
Hello, I'm Councillor Paul Hasselgrave,
Thank you,
and I'm
Paul.
a member of the committee.
I'm Councillor Adrian Pegg, also a member of the committee.
My name's Lucy Keeler. I'm from Legal Services and I'm here to assist the councillors this afternoon.
My name's Jackie Waring. I'm Appeals Officer. If I could ask the Licensing Authority to introduce themselves, please.
Angela Rawson, Licensing Manager.
Thank you.
And representative from the police.
PC 3492, Gareth Fowler from Derbyshire Police, Police Licensing Officer.
And Gemma Williamson, 14051, also Derbyshire Police Licensing.
Good afternoon, I'm Anne Walker. I'm representing the Licensing Authority.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Walker. I think we're going to have to switch your camera off because your voice just goes like a Dalek when you've got your camera on.
Hello, is that any better?
That's a lot better, thank you.
Okay, I'll stay off the video then. Yes, I'm Anne Walker and I'm representing the Licensing Authority. Thank you.
Mr. Iqbal, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Mr. Iqbal. We lost him again. Mr. Iqbal?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, we can. Yes, go on.
Now, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Mohammed Iqbal and I'm the applicant.
Thank you. I think that's all of them, Jackie, yeah?
That's everybody, yes. Thank you, Chair.
That's every. Yep. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on straight on to the agenda. And apologies, I don't think we have any, do we?
No apologies.
Late item to be introduced by the chair, none. And declaration of interest. Anybody? No, thank you. So we move on to item 5. Application for premises license 47 Wardwick, Derby. So over to Angela.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. The application for consideration by the subcommittee today is for the grant of a premises licence at 47 Wardwick, to be known as Chickish. The application was submitted by Mr. Mohammed Iqbal on the 31st of December 2020, and that's listed at Appendix 1 of your pack. If approved, Mr. Iqbal will become the licence holder. The applicant is asking for permission to sell hot food between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. the following morning. Although it is intended to open the site from 10 a.m, only the hours between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. become a licensable activity under the Act and therefore require a premises licence. A location plan is also attached at Appendix 4 for your information. And once we'd received the application, the responsible authorities listed at 4.3 in the report were all sent a copy of the application for their comments. The police and the licensing authority have both submitted relevant representations and they will be outlining their concerns for the committee to take into account when determining the application. Mr. Iqbal has also submitted additional information which the committee has been provided with. When considering the application, the committee must consider the licensing objectives as laid out in the Licensing Act 2003, And on that point, I refer you to 4.9 of the report. When coming to its decision, the committee must also have regard to its own statement of licensing policy, together with the statutory section 182 guidance. And obviously the council also has a duty under the Human Rights Act. And that's the application for you, Chair.
Colleagues, have we got any question for Angela on this? Paul?
No, Chair. No.
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Angela. So we'll move on to the police. Gareth Fowler. Gareth, can you hear me? Gareth?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, it's over to you now. Yeah. So,
in respect to this application then, in 2019, this office on behalf of the Chief Constable of Police provided evidence to the City Council that the established cumulative impact policy needed retaining. This was specifically because the number of alcohol-fuelled incidents that happened within a relatively small area of the city centre, and this small area, which is less than 1% of the City of Derby, held over 23% of all licensed premises. The evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable, and the policy was renewed in November 2019. However, this was not just a simple renewal of the CIP. The previous CIP was scrutinised and adjusted to ensure fairness. The size of the cumulative impact zone was reduced, as the data suggested that it included areas which were not having an adverse effect on crime and disorder. It was also put forward specifically that both off-licences and late-night refreshment licences be included in the data due to the level of crime associated to these premises. Within the evidence put forward to the Council was data from premises holding late-night refreshment licences, and from this data it can be seen that the premises serving food into the early hours of the morning have inherent issues and cause crime levels to rise. Over the last year, incidents and crime within the CIZ have dropped considerably due to the worldwide pandemic. For the majority of this time, however, premises with late-night refreshment licences have been able to continue trading with their businesses, offering takeaway service. The incidents and crime rates at these premises have dropped practically zero due to the fact that the area is temporarily not saturated with drunk people due entirely to the pubs being closed or operating to restricted timings. This further shows that the late-night refreshment licence within the CIZ is part of the problem and not the cure. Mr Iqbal has specifically applied for a late-night refreshment licence which runs from 2300 hours through to 0500 hours 7 days per week. This licence would allow service of hot food and beverages from midnight to 0500 hours on a Friday and Saturday night, which has been proven by the evidence put forward to the Council to renew the CIP to be extremely problematic in regards of both high incident and high crime statistics. The steps he has considered to take to promote the 4 licensing objectives within Part M of his application are both extensive and reputable. However, they are steps which I would expect any takeaway business in any part of the county to take in order to run a safe and viable business within the boundaries of legislation. His business, which is located in the middle of the CIZ, directly adjacent to 2 separate hotspot areas, is aimed at the same market as other takeaways which cause issues within the CIZ. That market being people who have been drinking alcohol all night and are seeking food before either leaving the area or going on to drink more in the late night clubs. This is not a business offering anything different to the other 15 late night refreshment premises within the CIZ, and if run successfully as a business will only add to the incidents and crime statistics within the zone. Mr Iqbal has stated he has run successful premises without issue in other areas of Derby. However, in no part of the CIP is this taken into consideration, and nor should it be. The CIP deals specifically with the saturation of premises within the zone and the crime and disorder that follow. I've advised Mr Iqbal that changing his business plan with different hours during a Friday and Saturday night would ensure that he does not impact on this saturation and that would indeed be a measure to reduce the impact that licence for this premises would have on the CIP. However, he has stated that the custom he is looking for is only viable in the hours that directly impact on the policy, those being from 12 midnight till 0500 hours on a Friday and Saturday night. I put to the committee that Mr Iqbal has not addressed the CIP in his application for a late night refreshment licence, and respectfully request that in its current form the application be rejected forthwith. That's my representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Colleagues, have we got any question for Gareth for the time being?
Yes, Chair.
Who's that? Is that Adrian Pegg?
Yes.
Yeah, go on, Adrian.
Thank you, Chair. I've noted the premises incident details, and thank you for bringing that forward for background. Do these incidents relate to the same premises, to probably a former business, or is it a generalisation of all businesses? And then could this then be used going forward to prevent other such establishments taking place?
I'm sorry, you broke up during part of that question. Could you just repeat it, please?
Yes, certainly. The premises incidents details, does it relate to the same premises, or is it a generalisation across many of the premises in that area? And could this report then be used going forward to perhaps prevent other such establishments from taking place or starting up?
Yeah, the incidents that were put forward as part of the application for the CIP, the cumulative impact policy, were specific incidents that are related to individual premises, which include your normal everyday pubs, takeaways, and any other premises with licences. So they are specific to individual premises. Obviously, there was no statistics specific to this premises at 47 the Wardwick, due to the fact that at the moment it doesn't have a licence and hasn't held one. And it's the CIP, the policy in general, it's an impact on the whole of the city centre, if that makes sense. So it's just another premise adds to the issues that are there, and it could be an extremely well-run premises with all the correct policies and procedures in place within the premises, but the fact that it's open is drawing more people to that area, and therefore making the saturation of the city centre even worse. What was the second part to your question, sorry?
Basically, could this incident report be used for future establishments to sort of discourage them from starting up?
The CIP, as the policy as a whole, is available for everyone to see. Obviously, it's on the licensing policy for the Derby City, so it's available for people to look at. And if other people were to apply, whether it was for a new pub, a new takeaway that would impact on the timings and impact on the saturation, then we would be advising these people the same thing, so the policy would remain the same.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a question, if that's all right.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Hello, Constable. Thanks for all the work you do keeping people safe in the city. Obviously, the issue here we have as committee members is to make sure that these four standards are maintained, and that's for the safety of people who use that area at whatever time of day or night, and also the staff who work there and any passers-by. I think you've tried to engage with Mr. Iqbal on this idea that it's the length of hours that he's open at that time. Do you think that if there were a reduction in the opening hours, say that he closed at 3 in the morning, that would help or alleviate the threat to saturation in the CIZ?
I'm afraid it wouldn't, no. Having said that, the reduction of hours to before midnight certainly would, because the proof from the evidence that's been put forward shows that from midnight to 0500 hours is the peak time for violent assaults, etc. And the crime and the incidents that are taking place are between 12 midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's when this policy really takes effect. If you were to open a takeaway establishment with the operating schedule that Mr. Iqbal's put forward, which is, as I said in my opening statement, it's very intricate and precise, and something I would look to see on an off license. If that were to operate till midnight, 7 days a week, at any time during the day, I'd have no qualms whatsoever about not objecting to the application. And this isn't an indictment on him as an applicant. It's literally because it falls into that period of those 5 hours on a Friday night into a Saturday morning, a Saturday night into a Sunday morning, where just by increasing the volume will increase the issues that the police have to deal with in relation to crime and disorder. So it's not an indictment on him as an operator and as someone running his business. It's just what's inherent with opening a business during those times where the saturation of other businesses there's already too many of them, if that makes sense, and which causes us issues, and it causes the police issues to such an extent that during normal business hours, which is not obviously during the pandemic of the last 12 months, there's a specific policing operation has to be put on every single Friday and Saturday night to police those hours, and that's how much of an effect it has on crime and disorder. There aren't many other things that cause a regular policing operation like that to have to be put out on a regular basis. The only thing that would possibly come close are some football matches, but even those aren't done every weekend. It's only specific football matches that have got specific threat and risk to them. There's not really anything else that is such a repetitive process to policing operations.
Thank you very much, Constable. That's really helpful. But Chair, do you mind if I just pursue this a little bit?
Yeah, go on, Paul, carry on.
So the issue then is obviously Friday and Saturday night, where if we had no COVID, the area would be packed with people who could have consumed a considerable amount of alcohol. If Mr. Iqbal were to be putting an application in to open at these hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, would you still have an objection?
Again, no, there'd be no objection to that, because as the evidence points to, it is literally the Friday night into the Saturday morning, then the Saturday night into the Sunday morning, which the sheer amount of premises with alcohol licences and late night refreshment licences causes a lot of people to come to the town centre, which causes the crime and disorder that follows. So if he were to put in 11 till 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Sunday, and then up until midnight on a Friday and a Saturday, then it would not have an impact. It would not have the same detrimental effect to crime and disorder that it would have opening another premises during those times.
Thank you very much.
Gareth, this incident detail on the premises is, and you just, I think, did you say that there's nothing recorded on this at 47 the Woodwick? Did you say that? How many are actually recorded on this premises?
This premises hasn't had a license before, whether, or I don't believe it has, whether it's late night refreshment or alcohol. I think it used to be a newsagents or similar. There may have been some incidents there in the past. It's certainly nothing I've looked at, and it's nothing that's ever raised a concern at that premises before.
So, the timing on this incident, is the timing saying they're all after midnight? I can't really.
The timing on which incident, sorry?
On the premises incident detail you've sent us.
Right. What those are, they're examples of two other premises which are basically late night food takeaway premises. So there's two in the immediate area of where Mr. Iqbal wants to open, and those two premises, I put them in just as a comparison so that you can see, because some people may say that this is only to do with alcohol and opening premises with a license to sell alcohol into the small hours, but you can see by those two incidents, which are takeaways, no matter how well run they are, they still have an incredibly high amount of violent incidents at them. So you can read down those sheets and just see that the different sorts of incidents that come to these sorts of establishments, no matter how these are both well-established premises within the city centre. And there are also two premises that we've been looking very closely at. And in the months leading up to the beginning of the pandemic, we were looking at taking action against both of the premises because of the high amount of incidents that they were having. Unfortunately, that was curtailed, or fortunately for them, should I say, it was curtailed with the this pandemic. So there's been no progress made on those. But I think it's evident just looking at those two incident lists for the two different premises that the sort of issues that officers face on a nightly basis, on a Friday and a Saturday night, when going out and looking after them, to an extent where, as part of the planning for the nighttime economy briefings that we do, officers are assigned to individual takeaways at specific points during the night when we know there are always flash points and there are always going to be incidents. So although you've got a list of around 18 or 19 incidents per premises there are a lot of incidents that police deal with before they become anything as part of this policing operation that we have to have, and another one opening up would spread that even thinner, obviously.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you.
And Chair, I could just ask a question. It's Lucy Keeler from Legal.
Yeah, go on, Lucy. Yeah.
Officer Fowler, you were just saying about, I think Councillor Khan was asking you about the specific times. Is it right that the date of the incident, say for example on the first one, it says 29th of January 2020 at 03:57 hours, would that indicate the time that the call came in?
Yes, those times are when the call was initially made, and then the incident sort of it's either a report that it's just happened, or the incident is unfolding as these people ring and police are attending to a live situation. So yeah, that's the first time it was reported to us, either via telephone or sometimes to officers that are on the street as part of these operations.
That's great, thank you for that clarification. And you've said that they were ones in the vicinity of where this proposed premises is due to be. Would they be on the Wardwick as well, or just in the vicinity as in close by?
There was one directly on the Wardwick and one approximately 80 metres away from the Wardwick on Cheapside.
And I think you said that there were 15 other late night refreshment places within the cumulative impact zone. How many of them are along the Wardwick? If you know, I can't think at this point as to what's down there.
That's a good question. I mean, the Wardwick does extend quite a way as well, but to my knowledge, I think there's 2, possibly 3 actually on the Wardwick itself. But I believe the cumulative impact zone is only about a kilometre square or something. It may even be smaller than that. I think I've got the information somewhere if I could have a try and find it. But it is actually quite a small area. So even if there's not as many on the Wardwick itself, the other premises that are in the area are extremely close and extremely tight packed.
And of that, there are the 15 you say being a late night refreshment.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to ask that question.
Thank you, Lucy. Can I also ask these list of incidents you've forwarded to us, how well are, security-wise, how well did you get access to security and cameras and all that? So are they well equipped with security?
Both premises, I believe, have CCTV. One of the premises, at the direction of us, have voluntarily started putting SIA accredited door staff on the door, and even with the door staff though, they were still having some issues at the premises. So even when you try and put mitigating factors in at this time, which obviously the bars and the clubs have to also, they're still known as flashpoints. Generally though, without looking at the licenses, which I could do, I couldn't tell you whether they've got conditions to have CCTV, etc. I believe they probably have. And the CCTV, I don't believe there's ever been any issues from the police gaining access to the CCTV.
Gareth, any more questions for Gareth, Lucy, Paul, Adrian?
No further questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Gareth. So we might have further questions later on, so if you just bear with us.
Chair,
thank you.
Chair, you may wish to ask at this time whether or not Mr. Iqbal has any questions for Officer Fowler.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Iqbal, have you got any questions?
I don't know if this is the right time to ask these questions, but it's just on a little point. He said there was the files that he gave in regards to the incidents of two of the premises. He said one was at Wardwick and the other one was on Cheapside, 80 meters away. Now, the only reason why I would know what I know is because obviously I want to open an establishment there. What I can't understand is Wardwick is very small. There's only a few places that it could be. So you got Friargate, then you have Wardwick, and then I believe it's Victoria Street. So is he talking about a premises that was actually on Victoria Street? Because if you're going in that direction, there's only bars and clubs. There's no, from what I understand, there's no food outlets that are on that side. And you go the other side, there's only the block we're in, that's where the food outlets are. The only reason why I'm bringing this point up is because I believe somebody asked about the Wardwick, and he said, no, it's on Wardwick, and yet Cheapside's 80 meters away. So I'm just confused as to which food outlet that would be. I appreciate you might not be able to say because of data protection, but it just doesn't make sense to me from what I know. So is he 100% sure the property that he was referring to is on Wardwick is my question.
Yeah, both premises, there was one on Cheapside, one on Wardwick. Whether the one that's on the Wardwick is open now, I am not sure, but it was certainly open when these obviously statistics were taken, and I believe it's planning to be opened again as soon as the pandemic eases and normal functions can resume. But it is still licensed and able to function as a takeaway with late night refreshment.
Okay, no problem. Just have one more question. It might be, I apologize to anyone if they think, if there's a reason why I'm asking, but I'll try to explain. Am I correct in what I believe? If more than 8 people are congregated in an area and there's issues, does that technically become a riot?
What do you?
The reason for I'll explain the reason why I'm asking that question. Gareth said that we have policing units specifically for Friday and Saturday because they have incidents. I appreciate that obviously people of Derby come to the centre of Derby to have a good time, and you have a few people who start doing what they shouldn't be doing. But the reason why I'm bringing this point up is because the police would have to come there anyway because of what I've just said. So normally, the reason why I know this is because I used to work in insurance for a while, and they told us the police has to come out when there's more than 8 people, because if it doesn't, then the police are liable to pay for whatever. That's the only reason why I'm making this point is it's more than one reason why the police come out on Friday night. That's the only reason why I'm making that point.
Okay, thank you. Gareth, have you?
Well, Chair, I may be able to assist in that.
Okay,
Obviously, there's a lot of different types of offences under the Public Order Act legislation, riot being one of them, drunken disorderly being another, and I don't think that's necessarily an answer that the police can give today in respect to that. What you've heard from Officer Fowler, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the police have in place a system where they do have officers in the city centre at that time to deal with the issues which they know arise. So I don't think we necessarily need to get into the realms of whether or not it's a riot or not. I don't think that takes us any further today.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Yeah, I think that should answer your question, Mr. Iqbal. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions for Gareth, colleagues? No. Thank you, Gareth. Bear with us in the meeting. So we'll move on to Anne Walker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, a new premises licence application has been received from Mr. Mohammed Iqbal for late night refreshment at 47 the Wardwick, Derby. The venue is situated within the area covered by the Council's Cumulative Impact Policy. The third and latest policy was agreed by the Licensing Committee and came into force on the 1st of April 2020. The Licensing Committee was satisfied at that time that evidence produced by Derbyshire Constabulary indicated the policy was still required to negate the cumulative impact of licensed premises within the city centre. On receipt of the application, I contacted Mr. Iqbal by email, pointing out the need for his application to consider the community impact policy. A copy of the email is included in your bundle. Having not received any response, I submitted a representation on behalf of the licensing authority. A copy was sent to Mr. Iqbal, as I am obliged to do, and a copy is in your bundle too. To this email, Mr. Iqbal responded saying, unfortunately, he had been ill, hence he hadn't responded to my first email. Looking at the contents of Mr. Iqbal's application, specifically those at Part M, he does not appear to have considered the council policy in his submission. In fact, some of his points are covered by primary legislation and in accordance with Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 guidance should not be converted into licence conditions, therefore avoiding any possible duplication. While I do not profess to know how Mr. Iqbal would run his business, I would expect an applicant to look at the policy and formulate a robust application and operating procedures, if necessary, that consider the measures needed to prevent any further cumulative impact in the area. The crux of the policy is centred on the location of the premises being in the city centre and the increase in incidences of crime and disorder in the early hours of the morning. With this in mind, and speaking generically and purely for example, I would expect any applicant to consider perhaps paring back the terminal hour to avoid the hot times, and perhaps looking at controlling customer access and egress to and from the premises, and possibly any queue control outside being controlled by licensed door supervisors. As I said, these are just examples, and given that takeaways potentially become the focus of lots of people having had a drink, and so become focus of attention where they all congregate and they become hotspots for crowd issues. So to conclude, I do not believe Mr. Iqbal has sufficiently demonstrated how his proposed business, if granted a licence, will not add to the community impact in the area, and so, in my opinion, does not meet the requirements of the Council's community impact policy. I therefore respectively ask the committee to reject the application as it stands today. Thank you, Chair.
Colleagues, any questions for Anne?
No questions, Chair.
Adrian, Lucy?
No questions,
Chair, apologies. If I could just ask one question of Mrs. Walker. Mrs. Walker, you said in your representations that some of the conditions put forward by the applicant are already covered by primary legislation, and that therefore that could be seen as duplication because they'd be required to do that anyway. Could you just give a couple of examples to the subcommittee as to what they were?
Yes, I certainly can. There was mention of risk assessments, which is covered by current health and safety legislation. There was a bit on fire safety as well, which is also covered by fire safety orders.
And Mrs. Walker, you may be able to assist me on my understanding. I think that, just bear with me 1 second while I just check my notes again. No, apologies, Ms. Walker. I was incorrect in what I was thinking there. It's not in the notes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Lucy. Anne, I just want to ask you, which other premises are there in Wardwick that's got a license till 5 in the morning or 3 in the morning? Have you got the information?
I don't have it to hand, no, Chair. I can find out for you.
Yeah. Thank you,
I know
ma'am.
there's I can say there is about 6 licensed premises there which cover sort of Wardwick, Cheapside, Curzon Street. So they're for late night refreshment, but I don't know the exact hours they would have without checking.
Okay, and thank you. Mr. Iqbal, have you got any question for Anne? Thank you. Paul, Adrian, any more questions?
No, Chair.
None for me, Chair.
Thank you. So we move on to the applicant now. So it's over to you, Mr. Iqbal.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. In regards to this application, the location that we've got is outside a bus stop and a taxi stand. So in regards to this cumulative impact policy, what I believe is that the people will go into our premises, and then normally the way, and I've worded this in some of the documentation that I've sent out, is people go in, buy the food, come out, and then when they buy food, the night's finished. So they will have access to the yellow cabs, and if buses are running at that time, I don't know if they are, but if they are, they'll have access to the buses. So the cumulative impact should be reducing at this time. So as I said in my application, as my experience as a taxi driver, people tend to start coming back from a night out from around 1 o'clock onwards. And so with the taxi rank outside, bus stop access, that should potentially reduce the cumulative impact. In regards to what we'd be serving, I just sent something out a couple of days ago. I didn't realize, but we're not going to be serving our usual kebabs and stuff. It's going to be different types of food. So my argument is, I appreciate everybody comes into the city centre for a night out, but if you have more people spread out, surely that should reduce the issues that the police are having. When you have them in one particular establishment, and there's loads of people there, I appreciate people are standing up, knocking into each other, and there could be issues. I appreciate that. But what I'm trying to argue here is, if you have more establishments, surely that will cause people to spread out, and that should hypothetically reduce the amount of issues that people are having. My other arguments, we don't actually serve alcohol on the premises. We're just concerned with food. The way our food would be provided is it'd be put in special holders, so the food would be available quickly. So if people want to just leave, they're more than welcome to. They'll be hopefully served within a minute or two, very quickly. If they want to sit down and eat, obviously there's seating, then they can do that. And with the seating in mind, that should, we're hoping, reduce again the amount of issues that the police have. So with the research I've done, what I kind of found is, when people are standing up, that's when they might knock into each other and you have issues. But if they're sitting down, there's not as many issues. So that's all I can. I'm just looking at my notes. If you just bear me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. I think that's me. Yeah. And also, I did send Mr. Fowler an email saying, look, would you consider me? Would you consider that I've considered the cumulative impact if I was to possibly reduce the hours from 5 a.m. And he said no. So that was the reason why I left the application at 5 a.m. Otherwise, I would have considered doing it slightly earlier. I would be, if I did get the go ahead today, I'd be looking to invest in about, I think it roughly cost around £100,000. It's not a small amount of money. And in terms of the reason why we need the nighttime trade is because it helps you with your turnover, etc., etc. And that's where I kind of stand at the moment. So yeah, That's me.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. Can I ask, you just mentioned about reducing hours. What sort of hours are you suggesting?
I believe I asked Mr. Fowler. So I said, look, if I open till 3 p.m., would you consider that? Sorry, not 3 p.m. Apologies, 3 a.m. Would you consider that? And that's the sort of time I was looking at. 3, 4. If not 4, then 3. I'd definitely consider that. Yes, if it was on the table.
3, okay. Colleagues, Paul, Adrian.
Yes, I would like to ask a question to Mr. Iqbal, Chair, if that's possible.
Thank you. Yeah, go on, Paul.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Iqbal. I do understand that you're anxious to open your business and you're prepared to put a lot of money in to the business, and I'd hope that you're successful if you're in that if this is granted. But you must understand that we as a committee do have this issue of making sure that community, the CIZ, to just keep it short, is not made more volatile, more unstable by the opening of a business. Now, you're not going to serve alcohol, but you have no control on the state of people that are coming into that establishment. And clearly the big thing from the police is talking about being open on Friday and Saturday night between 12 and 5 in the morning. And that, it's difficult enough to police, it would appear. And there's a concern that your establishment, not by design, but by result, would increase the volatility in the area. And you may have noticed that I asked the constable if would have any objections if you were to open from Sunday to Thursday night from midnight till 5 in the morning, and he said he'd have no objections. Could that be a viable business model for you? I know there's less turnover, but would it be is it something you'd be interested in considering?
Sorry, can I respond now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So,
yeah.
Okay. The issue that we'd have, it depends how it was done. If we got some leeway on Friday and Saturday, then yes, I'd consider that no problem. The issue that we have is, unfortunately, for whatever reason, Derby Town Centre at night on the weekdays, it's nobody's there. I think you get some student nights, but then with the student nights there, obviously when they go home back when universities, colleges, etc. are closed, it gets really, really difficult. So I would consider it as long as we've got a tiny bit of leeway on the Friday, Saturday. Otherwise, it'd be difficult for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal.
Adrian?
Yes, Chair, I've got a few questions.
Go on, Adrian.
Hi, Mr. Iqbal. You mentioned that obviously you won't be serving alcohol, but how will that prevent those that have consumed alcohol not cause any problems in your premises?
Okay, so I've run a place before. It was actually on Normanton Road, and as far as I'm aware, we never ever had any issues. We had a pub directly opposite, so people were coming inside, etc. And the way we kind of dealt with if there's a customer was drunk, if he was getting slightly irate, etc., is we you might believe it or not, but just regular customer service skills. So we just try to make sure we didn't try to make the customers more irate. We try to help them out by calling a taxi if that's what they wanted. Try to serve them as quick as possible. So they got the food, and if they were going to go in a taxi, got in a taxi and went home, or they got the food and they just went away. And we never ever had any issues. I appreciate town is a completely different kettle of fish because you could potentially have more volume. But I'd like to think that our customer service skill, our experience that we've had before running a premises could go a long way into sort of preventing too many issues.
Thank you. Just going on from that slightly, you mentioned in your submission that you would offer training or whatever to your staff, but in addition to that, what measures have you got in place to prevent and stop for want of a better word, drunken behaviour and related problems in or around your proposed premises?
So what? So what I would consider doing, and this is not something I've made a decision on, but it's highly likely that we would do it. We'd have TVs, so we'll have more than one, like in for the Chickish that we did on Normanton Road when I was running that. What we had was 5 different TVs, and this is hoping that that was in the mind of people's attention. If there was any issues, people's attention were potentially on the TVs, looking at the posters, etc., or information there. So I would like to have maybe considered implementing that here. So if you have TVs, whether people are drunk or not drunk, they look at the TV, waiting to be served, so their attention is made more on the TV and what's going on there, rather than what's going on around them. And that's what the hope is. So their attention is sort of moved in that direction.
Thank you. Just a bit further. You mentioned that in your proposed establishment there'll be just seating. So consequently, that should reduce capacity. So how would you manage reducing the capacity? Because that could lead to frustration if people can't get in because your seating capacity is full and you can't get people in. So again, if I had alcohol, they could get frustrated, could get upset, and it could possibly lead to some friction. So how would you manage that to prevent that happening, and if it did happen, stop it?
If it did happen, how would we stop it? I would consider appointing door staff on Friday, Saturday night. Definitely, I would consider doing that to obviously try to, if people see there's door staff there, maybe that would stop stuff. But the way we would service people, like I said before, is our food's already made, it's already cooked, so they're in holders. So whenever a customer comes, normally things that delay you are your fries. Everything else is cooked. So what would happen then is the fries would be ready, so we could potentially serve a customer within 20 to 30 seconds. So even if we did get busy, we'd hopefully be serving people very, very quickly, and we hope to do a bit where people come in and go out separately, so they're not going through people. So my answer in regards to your question is we'd consider appointing door staff if that was a condition, and we serve people quickly. Depending on what they order. If they order something that takes a bit longer, then that's different. But normally, the people like quick food and to go. So that's how we would kind of try to address that.
Thank you very much. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a couple of questions, if you'll permit me to ask them. It's Lucy from Legal.
Yeah, Lucy, go on.
Mr. Iqbal, I've heard you make reference to, and saw within your application as well, that you've obviously run a similar premises elsewhere. You've mentioned Normanton Road. What made you decide to choose the location in which you're proposing in your application, taking into account the cumulative impact zone for Derby?
Okay, do you want me to be completely honest with you? So the way I've always wanted to open a business town because, you potentially earn more money. So what actually happened was these properties were bought by my father. We weren't aware of the CIP at the time. We then found out afterwards that there were these issues in regards to town. So what I did was when I was considering putting an application in, I started talking to the police, which was Mr. Fowler, and I believe it was Anne Walker from the council, trying to get to what it was that they required. It was quite difficult because I appreciate from their point of view, they're saying, look, I remember an email, they're saying, you know how to run your business. And I was saying, yes, I know how to run my business. I know how to run it very well. But businesses can adapt to achieve what they want to achieve. They can adapt to whatever they need to in order to get to a certain stage. But the information wasn't as forthcoming as I would like. Not due to them not giving it. It's just I assumed this was I had to read the CIP, and which I did, and I kept sending emails trying to get to the bottom of it. So the answer to your question is I wasn't really aware of it before we purchased the properties.
Okay, but in respect of, aside from that cumulative impact zone, would it be right to say that you chose that location because of the amount of footfall that may be going through?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Okay, it's because of the footfall at night. Also is we'll find out afterward. So basically, yes, main thing was it was because it's in the town centre, and I always wanted a business in town centre because of the footfall. So the amount of people that would come, but that was during the day as well. So it wasn't just necessarily at night, because I knew it's always been on the cards where where Collier Street is, which is not too far from there. There's going to be they're going to have to do something there, as in a regeneration thing. Debenhams, we knew that was on the cards. They were going to regenerate that. So yes, it was to do with footfall, but that would have been during the day to the night as well.
And knowing what you know now about the cumulative impact policy, would your decision to choose the premises at that location remain the same? You may feel that you can't answer that one. What I think I'm trying to get at is whether or not there was any other locations considered before you purchased the premises in the Wardwick.
The answer to your question, if we had known this from before, would we have purchased those properties? The answer is probably no. These properties became available, and that's why we purchased them. Did we consider other locations? In the town centre, it was only here or the other side at Morlidge we would have considered. Otherwise, we wouldn't have considered, or maybe even potentially Friargate. But otherwise, we wouldn't have considered no, because too much of investment. That's the only reason why.
And was that just a consideration of the area, or were there specific units at those locations that you'd considered?
Sorry, I don't understand when you say units.
As in shop units.
Okay, yeah, apologies. Yeah. So what we because if I was to rent, it would cost me a certain amount. My dad, he invested in property, so I said, look, if you get the opportunity, let's buy a unit that we can, and then I'll pay you the rent. So what happened was if there was maybe something at Friargate that came up for sale, we would have maybe considered that, or Wardwick, which we did consider. And like I said, Morlidge. So these units came up, and that's why we went for them, because we thought it was in the right sort of area. We would have preferred slightly low the other direction, but because these came up and it was at the right price, that's why we went for these.
And then just moving on to what you've said to the subcommittee this afternoon, you were saying with regard to that you're going to be considering putting TV screens up within the premises for customers that may be sat down and eating. And we've also heard that there is a taxi rank just outside. Are you concerned? And if you are concerned, how would you be dealing with an accumulation of people either queuing to get into your premises or those queuing for the taxi ranks, and any potential disorder which could arise from that, given people may have been drinking?
Okay, in regard to that, I think if you've seen the sort of path and where the taxis kind of park, it is outside, but I think there's enough of a gap in the path, because the path is, I believe, quite big. So the queues, if there are any queues, they won't really they won't touch together, sort of thing. In regards to the queues inside our place, I don't think there'd be many queues, but like I said before, people have the option to sit down, and we'd be serving food as quick as possible. So fried chicken. So if somebody orders 2-piece chicken and chips, once they've paid, we can give that within 20 to 30 seconds in a bag, and they're gone. If they want to sit down and eat, no problem. So we don't think we'd have much of a queue.
And had you given any consideration to, when putting together your application, partnering up with any taxi firms in effect to ensure that your customers could then get access to transport out of the city centre after getting food? I think you've made reference to you think their intention would be to get food and go home, but had you actually made any inquiries with any set up some sort of partnership working?
Okay, this is something I did consider, but I couldn't really consider it. Simple reason why is because so on weekdays it's no problem. On Friday and Saturday the Wardwick is closed to. When I say I'm talking about specifically private hire. The yellow cabs, there's no issue. They'd be outside, and if you could partner, I would definitely consider it. But with the private hire, they can't, because they have no access on Friday, Saturday from 12 a.m. to, I believe it's 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know exactly what time it ends. So they have no access to that road. So that'd be difficult to do.
And then finally, Mr. Iqbal, you made reference to the fact that you've had previous experience of being a taxi driver, and I think you said about a certain time frame where you felt that people were leaving the city centre. What time was that again? I didn't write it down at the time. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So what we kind of had, so when we started getting busy, so it'd be around 12, even 11 o'clock, we'd start getting busy. But normally that'd be like around the local area from town. It'd be around from 12 till about 1:30. You'd be busy. Then you'd get from about 1:30 till around 2:30, 3 o'clock. You won't be that busy. It'll be a bit of a break, and then from 3 till potentially 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's when you got busy again. So people are obviously leaving town. So the rush is around 12 till about 1:30. And I would say around 3 till about 4:30, 5 o'clock when people start leaving town.
And you've had sight of the documentation that the police provided yesterday. Have you had the opportunity to have a read through of those incidents?
Yes, I have, yeah.
And is that something which you had considered may occur in takeaway premises, or is that something which was new to you, or is it something you expected to see given the time of morning?
In the time of morning, you'd expect to see stuff like this. There's no doubt. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I know. I've been a taxi driver. I know what the situation is. I've seen it. So, I know these things happen. In regard to happening at premises, like specifically and continuously, I didn't think it would happen continuously. So I didn't think that. Yeah.
That's great, Mr. Iqbal. And then, apologies, just one final thing. You mentioned within your application about risk assessments, and I know that obviously you've had your previous premises. Would it be your intention to use those same risk assessments that you use in your other premises on these premises, or would you tailor it specifically to the location?
I'd tailor it specifically to the location, because obviously with the CIZ, etc., it'd have to be so. I'll do whatever is in my power to tailor it to that.
And is that anything you've been looking at already, or awaiting the outcome of today's hearing?
To be honest with you, everything is on hold until we get a conclusion from today's meeting. So
that's great.
Once we get a conclusion, then if it's in my favour, then yes, I will start doing what I need to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. Councillor Khan, thank you very much for allowing me the time to ask those questions.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Can I ask Anne if she's got any questions? Is Anne there?
Hello, Chair. No, thank you. I have no questions. Thank you.
And Gareth? Gareth?
Hello.
Hello, Gareth. Have you got any questions for Mr. Iqbal?
No specific questions, no.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, Adrian and Paul, have you got any more questions? Or
no, Chair.
Shall I get them?
Chair.
I get everybody to sum up then? Yeah.
Yeah, Chair.
Lucy can't hear you. Lucy. Okay.
Apologies, Chair. Yeah. Yes, that's fine. Summing up now.
Yeah. Angela, can you please sum up, please?
Apart from the information I've already provided, Chair, I've got nothing else to add.
Thank you, Angela. Gareth?
Hello there. Sorry, the phone takes a while to come out of mute, unfortunately. Can you hear me now?
Okay, Gareth. Yeah, we can hear you now, Gareth. Sum up, please.
Okay, in summary then, in the opinion of the Chief Officer of Police, the application made by Mr. Iqbal for a late night refreshment licence for 47 Wardwick Derby would have an adverse effect on the cumulative impact policy put in place by Derbyshire City Council in November 2019. He does not adequately address this in either his operating schedule nor timings for the operation of his proposed business. For these reasons, once more, the Chief Officer of Police for Derbyshire Constabulary respectfully requests that the application be rejected in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Anne?
Thank you, Chair. Acting on behalf of the Licensing Authority, I do not believe Mr Iqbal has sufficiently demonstrated how his proposed business will not add to the cumulative impact in the area, and do not believe that it meets the requirements of the Council's cumulative impact policy in its form today. I ask the committee respectfully to reject the application. Thank you.
Anne. Thank you, Anne. Mr. Iqbal, can you please sum up now? Yeah.
So yeah, if we do get permission to open to the hours that I've requested, I think it would reduce the cumulative impact because people are more spread out. If they're more spread out, surely that should cause less issues. I'd hope you consider that when making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. So I think we're going to adjourn now, and then I think Mr. Iqbal and the rest of colleagues can leave, and that the subcommittee can remain, and we'll make a decision today, and we will send you our decision in writing. Is that right, Lucy? Yeah.
Yeah, I think to save everyone hanging on, obviously you have to now discuss with your other councillors your decision on this, and obviously the decision notice then has to be drafted up in writing. So I think it would be appropriate for the other parties to leave now and us to go into closed session for you to determine that. And as I say, if everyone's happy for it to be received via email, once that decision notice is then drafted, that can be emailed out to all parties. I don't know if Mrs. Rawson, do we have everyone's email address?
Yes, we do.
And is everybody content to receive that decision notice by email?
Is everybody happy with that, yeah?
Yeah, from Derbyshire Police, that's fine.
Mr. Iqbal, would you be happy to receive the decision notice via email? Oh, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I was asking, would I be told of the decision today? Or
not necessarily. They're going to be discussing it after we finish now, and then obviously it has to be typed up, so it may not be typed up by the end of today, but it will be coming out shortly to you.
Okay, yeah, if that's the way it's got to be, that's fine, no problem.
That's great. So it'll be via email that it'll be sent out.
No problem.
I'm grateful.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. Thank you, Gareth, and and also thank you, Anne. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, have they left the meeting?